Welcome to Triangle BNI. Today's show is brought to you by Simply Done Concierge. Folks can go make money, can go make products, but you can't make time in your day. And that's what we do here at Simply Done Concierge is help you be in two places at one time. Meal prep, dog sitting, dog walking, cleaning, packing, unpacking. We can help you with that. So if you need some more time back in your day, please go to simplydoneconcierge.com. Tell them how we can help you, and I know we will be able to add time to your day. Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Manning. Each week on Triangle BNI, we bring you a local small business success story. If you are not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. Our little slice of heaven here in the Triangle is Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, and the surrounding cities. Each week, about 32 chapters and around 550 members get together, and our goal is to help each other grow our businesses. And our local small business success story this week is Scottie Gardner with Colonial Insurance Agency. Scottie is a member of Cary Connections. They meet Monday mornings at 8:30 at Hope Community Church on Buck Jones Road. Scotty, we just saw each other. It is good to see you again. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks, Mike.
Good. Yeah, we had a good meeting this morning. Scotty's group, 19 strong, I think. Had a couple of good visitors, got a pending application. So it's a good way to start the new year. Now, you've been in BNI 8 years and 8 months, if I've got my math correct. What got you into this? What got you into BNI?
Well, I was I'm sure some BNIers can relate that I was a never BNIer. and I had a not a I guess not a coach I'd hired, but just a personal individual in my life that acted as a coach, so to speak, who kept saying, "Well, yeah, but what if it increased your revenue? Yeah, but what if it increased your revenue? Well, yeah, but what if it increased your revenue?" And I'm like, okay, okay, I got you, I got you. So coincidentally, one of the fellow agents, the owner of this agency, decided to join a BNI, and one thing led to another. Someone who visited the BNI thing, right? One person who visited his BNI chapter invited him to come to their chapter, and he's like, "No, I'm good, but I've got somebody in my office I'd like to send." So I ended up being that somebody. One thing led to another. Joined that group. Things played out there the way they did, and now here, 8.5 years later, Cary Connections chapter going strong.
What I like about that story is I'm obviously a BNI fan as well. Um, you are in the insurance world. You're an independent insurance agent. We'll get to Colonial in a second, but you only have in the triangle about what 32,000 competitors, probably.
I don't know what the statistic is, but we just say there's one on every corner, and there's a lot of corners.
There are, and sometimes in that office there's six of them, right?
That's
So,
right. You're
yeah.
at an intersection. There's four, so you
But I like that approach you have because everybody or almost everybody needs some version of insurance. And so they've got to come find somebody like you. But I like the fact the other thing I learned at BNI since I've been in was the difference between a captive agent and an independent insurance agent. There
have.
are many people you can call to quote somebody's coverage.
That's correct. Yeah. So independent agents represent a number of different insurance companies. Some represent some of the same companies. Some have unique companies to their agency. Just depends on who you've contracted with, over the time that your agency's been in business. But yeah, it just gives us a lot of flexibility. I've actually mentioned this morning in BNI, but statistically, now I know it seems kind of the opposite because we're always kind of getting pitched as a consumer, call us to save money, those commercials on TV, things of that nature. But statistically, people don't like to shop their insurance, and they certainly don't like to switch their agents. People want to stay in a place where they feel comfortable. Now, there are certainly extenuating circumstances that change that. They don't feel safe in that place anymore. They don't feel confident in that place anymore. And then it becomes time to look around. But in general, and again, broad statistics, people don't they don't want to shop or move from their agent. So us representing multiple companies gives us that flexibility where they can have that confidence that um, to give them a sort of a viewpoint of the marketplace for their situation at any given time. We can price it out for them, and if we find a better deal for them, then great. They get the benefit of saving that money and not having to switch their agent.
The couple things I know. One is I know Scott and Gretchen a little bit, know you a little bit better. I don't believe you guys are going to be incorporating an animal in any TV advertisements you guys do in 2023. So feel confident about that. Not to knock any agents, any carriers that do. But the other thing I learned in BNI from agents like yourself is everybody's got a policy, but not everybody has coverage. And
Yeah,
and that just made me think that insurance is something we know. I got it. I don't know what I got, Scotty, but I got it. And we
yeah,
really need to look at least once a year at our policy.
I say so. I mean, if nothing else, I guess sort of a twofold answer. I don't know that people necessarily need to be shopping their coverage every year. But certainly, if there's a question that's come to mind, and that doesn't have to be at like renewal or whatever, but if you have a question, ask it. Is probably more the answer I would give you, Mike. Is call don't hesitate to call up your agent to ask a question that comes to mind. Maybe there's a reason that question is coming to mind, right? Um, is some intuition going on there or whatever? But yeah, and I think that you know, taking the time to do that may also give you some more insight into who you're actually dealing with and is this person responsive? Um, do they have an answer? And if they don't have an answer, were they willing to go get the answer? Maybe even an opportunity to, again, learn a little bit more about the type of person that you're dealing with.
Yeah, and I think one of the normal life changes that come to my mind every time I think about that is if you've got a car that's 10 or 11 years old and you sell it, now you don't necessarily buy another car, but you just sell that one. Probably not top of the list. Oh, better call Scotty, tell him to take that off my policy. We may think about that 2 months down the road, but but those little changes like that.
Yeah, and I would say one thing that we run into, and I imagine the industry as a whole does, is that we've got car dealers telling car purchasers, our clients, our insureds, don't worry about it. We'll call your agent. We'll make sure this car gets added to the policy. Get them all the details that you need. We'll handle it turnkey. Nothing to worry about. 3 months, 6 months, whenever their next renewal rolls around, they get it. They're like, hey, this car we bought in May and it's now, August is not on here. The dealer told us they were going to call. They didn't call. Obviously, we have no other way of knowing that you purchased a vehicle without them or you letting us know. And that's become an area where we've kind of had to reteach, retrain our clients, hey, you know, certainly take it on their goodwill. If they call us, wonderful, but you need to call us regardless of what they say. And if they happen to call us too, then great. We've heard from both of them.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That you're right. And
That happens more so than the I sold my car, but I forgot to tell you about it. We get plenty of calls of, hey, we sold a car. What do we need to do?
yeah.
It's the we bought a car and nobody knew about it. That's been more of a problem that we've noticed.
Wow, I didn't think about that. But yeah, that's good to know. So speaking of car dealers and insurance, you can jump in and tell me how dumb I was because I was, and it's a valuable lesson I learned. So I bought this would have been 5 years ago, maybe. I bought a really nice minivan that I needed because my brother and I were still doing the commercial cleaning business. And I bought the minivan. It's a like 2-year-old minivan. Everything I needed, really liked it. And I was getting ready to drive off the dealership, and the guy goes, "Hey, do you want gap insurance?" I'm like,
Mm.
"I think I'm good." Alright, so, like, 2.5 months later, I get T-boned. I was going through through a neighborhood, and a couple of kids were horsing around, one car was chasing the other, and this I got T-boned at about 45 miles an hour, airbags, I mean, everything went on. I thought I'd hit something, and I didn't. And the van was totaled, and because I said no to gap insurance, it cost me about $3,200 out of pocket. That was a very ex because they weren't gonna give me the price I bought it for. They said, "Here's what it's worth today," and it's like, so little things like that, just call your insurance agent and go,
For
"Should I
sure.
do this?" Oh, I was so ma I was mad, Scotty, at losing the van. I was furious at not at losing $3,200.
For sure. For sure.
Oh, so gap insurance, it matters. Little things like that matter, but that's why they call somebody like you, right?
Yeah, and not to go down a coverage road tangent, but the insurance companies have come out with some additional optional coverages and endorsements that address that issue now as well. So there are ways to prevent that from happening to people outside of gap coverage as well.
Is that a stupid clause they inserted for people like me? Is that what it's called?
No, and not every and not every company offers it, but it's
Yeah.
called repair and replacement cost coverage. So there can still be some instances where, because the natural question would be, then why do they offer gap coverage? Well, they have repair and replacement cost options with some companies, but the vehicle has to be like the same model year, or newer to
Ah,
qualify for that with the insurance company. So anything that's already a couple years old when you bought it, you would need to have the gap coverage to cover that need. But if it is truly brand new, we could look at the repair and replacement cost, which is going to help. You have to read the policy form with the respective companies, but most of them are going to just buy a brand new vehicle if it's totaled within the first year since the purchase, and then in the subsequent years all the way up to 5 years when they remove that endorsement, because they don't offer that after it's 5 years old. But in those subsequent 4 years after the first year, you're not going to have to deal with the depreciation like you would typically have to deal with. So, instead of them saying, well, the book says the car is worth this, the insurance, but you're sitting there and you're looking online and you're saying, well, I understand that, but if I went and bought this car today with this many miles on it, this color, with these features like I had, this is actually what it would have cost. Well, that actually what it would cost is what they're paying you, as opposed to that depreciated amount. So in any circumstance, you don't have to, if you qualify for that endorsement, that takes away some of that uh, curiosity about, well, how's this going to play out?
yeah. The lesson here today to all the young kids is don't be stupid. Call your insurance agent. Save your
Yeah, just
$3,200.
ask questions.
Invest it, and one day it'll pay off way more than 3,200. But you're right. Just simple phone calls. So,
Just ask
uh,
the question.
now the insurance world changes. I think every day or every week, maybe at least every week, you're getting an update on the industry of something. Is that a fair timeline?
Yeah,
Okay.
there are either new types of
Yep.
coverage endorsements similar to the one that we just talked about, things of that nature that companies may be rolling out. A lot of times in our industry, one company will come up with that coverage, and then the other companies follow suit as they get more data about it and know how to rate for it and things of that nature, and have more people asking about it. So there's information coming out, not necessarily daily but constantly, where other companies are starting to offer coverages that they've seen, enhancements to those coverages as insurance companies learn about coverages that they offer and they see claims coming in. They'll start to tailor those coverages and enhance those coverages as well. So when you represent more than one company like we do, you're constantly getting details about either new coverages coming out or betterments to coverages that already exist.
And that which leads me to my question that about 3 months before you became an insurance agent, did you realize I hope you enjoy reading, Scotty. Did you realize you'd have to read and retain this much information?
Um, Not exactly. No. It's kind of one of those things, I guess, probably in a lot of industries, but especially, when you're starting out and whatever you're doing, it's just you kind of see what sticks,
Mhm.
and we hope it sticks. But obviously, when you have an interest in your industry and it's something that you see yourself doing long term, you take that initiative to learn more and more. And you have to have some things happen to you too, right? Some things not go a certain way or the way you thought they should have gone,
Mhm.
or kind of learning the hard way in some respects too, to be able to advise clients better, as you go along.
Yeah, I've had, some insurance agent on the show, in the past, and I've always liked asking them, and for however you can answer this question, and I'll tell you 2 stories here in a minute after you answer, but what's the coolest thing you've gotten to insure for somebody?
Mm,
And I asked
hmm.
that because I had an agent on one day, she got a chance to insure a Super Bowl ring, which I thought was alright, but you always ask for, to meet boys with toys, jet skis, boats, cool cars, things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I mean, I've never insured anything like, in insane with in that regard. Had the opportunity to insure like, some nicer high end boats or whatever, but I mean, not like a Leo DiCaprio like yacht or anything like that. I guess I would say probably the coolest, not a single one thing, but part of what we do, we help businesses insure their business owners insure their businesses too. And um, really for me, one of the cool things is just seeing these guys, some of them start from scratch,
Mhm.
and they come to you, and 5 years later, 10 years later, to see the success that they've had in their business, and to talk to them about, how they got started, what they've done to make that business a success. I think being a part of that and seeing that their dream come to fruition is a really cool thing. And, we've gotten an opportunity to ensure some, whether it be a business where it's like third
Yep.
generation and the business owner now is like the one who's like just trying not to screw up the family legacy, all the way to the guy who, started from scratch 5 years ago with a weed eater,
Mhm.
and trimming sidewalks to, growing a massive landscape company or whatever. Um, so not any one unique item that I've ever insured that just stuck out to me. But definitely a lot of unique businesses and the backgrounds that the people come from, in owning those
Mm.
businesses is really cool.
And another agent I had on, she we got to talk about the weirdest request you get for insurance. And she had a call one time from a guy who asked if she could insure his illegal business. I mean, he told her up front it's illegal, and she didn't tell me what kind of business it was, but he said, "Can you insure my illegal business?" She goes, "I don't think I'm gonna be able to help you on that."
Yeah, this isn't going to work out. That's funny. So we had a guy who was in love with his cat,
No.
and he had this cat cloned. Well, the clone cat was insanely expensive, and so he wanted to insure against ever having to clone this cat again. That insurance would be able to pay to do that, as opposed to him having to pay out of pocket to be able to do that. So
Wow.
that never became of anything, but that was the oddest request I think I've ever heard of.
I like that. That's, yeah, I know people love cats. I didn't know you could go so far as to clone them, but hey.
That was an interesting conversation.
Do you remember the very first policy you closed?
I do.
How
It was
nervous were you that day?
I was sitting in this guy's living room, like, I mean, that, and everything's changed so much now. There's e-signature and electronic payments and all of this stuff now that wasn't there 14 years ago when I got started. And but yeah, sitting in this guy's living room, signing some applications for his little small business chiropractic firm that he'd started. That was the very first policy ever.
Nice. And so when you left the house, what kind of proud were you feeling like, "I got this"?
Mike, I've never been so proud to make $15 in my life.
Oh, that's so
uh,
good, man. Yeah, because
yeah,
we don't think about that. We think, "Oh, he just insured a $25,000 car," and, I mean, your residual your cut is gonna be what it is. There's not a lot you can do about that, but 15 bucks. I like that,
yeah,
man.
yeah. Humble beginnings. A
Oh,
lot
good.
different than that. Thank you for closed business that I reported this morning.
Yeah, yeah, which was a good one. Yeah, those are good. 15 bucks.
Crazy.
And how long did it take you to close the next one?
Oh man, it's crazy. You know, you always remember the first, right? But it's like I don't know that you ever remember the second. What was the second thing I did? I don't know, Mike.
Right?
I don't remember what the second one was.
No
That's
worries.
terrible.
That just like yeah, it's like 4th place at the Olympics. Nobody remembers because you didn't medal, so,
Yeah, it
uh,
didn't make it.
yeah,
Didn't make it on the podium.
that person won't be in your book when you write it one day, right?
That's it.
What is the I'm sure we own things because I hear people with you hear jewelry and paintings and stuff like that. What are a couple 1 or 2 common things that people never think to get insured, but they probably should look into it?
um, Engagement and wedding rings is probably the most common. Um, but then there are a lot of other miscellaneous items that people just assume are covered. The not to go down a get in the weeds on coverage forms and things like that, but the issue that you run into with items that we talk about scheduling is theft.
Yep.
So theft is that specific peril that insurance companies often limit your coverage for things like jewelry, fine arts, firearms, silverware. You know those more um, what can amount to higher end items that typically get lost or stolen.
Yep. So
So
if I'm a brand new groom and I'm on my honeymoon and I'm on a cruise and somehow or another my ring slips off and goes down into the ocean, can I if that's insured, can I get that recovered?
yep, yep,
I think
and that's
anybody yeah.
and the thing about it when it's scheduled is they pick up a thing called mysterious disappearance. So like
Right.
it can you don't have to there's if there's an instance where you can't really prove that like I lost it in the ocean,
Yep.
like I just simply don't have it anymore and I can't show you that I don't have it other than like, unless you want to like
Yeah.
raid my house or something. Like
Yeah.
we're just taking it on your word that you scheduled this item and you're
Yep.
telling us that you no longer have it.
Well, and speaking of mysterious, disappearances, we're gonna get into kids here in a second because we were laughing about
Ooh,
that this morning, yeah.
ooh,
One of the questions I always like to ask my guest, your wife's name is Lauren.
correct.
Okay. How did you and Lauren meet, and do you both tell the story the same way?
Yeah, we do. So we um interesting. She was a homeschool kid um all the way up until her senior year in high school. She told her mom, she's like, I want to, nothing against you. You've done great. I just want to go to public school to meet some people, right here locally before I go off to college. So she shows up at our small, Bunn High School, a very rural high school there. Um, and That's how I guess we first, I won't say we met, we just knew one another existed. And then we ran in some of the same friend circles, not really. But we knew who, one another was. And then we both went to community college, Nash Community College, after we graduated. And in our last, or actually her last semester, my next to last semester there, we had a class together. Um, we were the only two people that knew each other in that class, so we sat beside one another. We were both single. One thing led to another, and
Nice. Did you,
here we are.
as the George Strait song goes, did you pass her note, say, "Check yes or no"?
Check yes or no. I guess in my own way. Yes, I did.
So, where was the first date?
Ooh. Oh, I know. Um, Las Margaritas in Wake Forest. For all my Wake Forest people, you know exactly where that is. It's in the basement of the building on the corner there, Main Street.
Very nice. And how long into the relationship did you realize, "Ooh, I think there's something here"?
Pretty soon.
Good. Good answer,
Yeah,
Scotty. Good answer.
pretty soon. Yeah, yeah. We did the long distance thing, and we had about a 3-month breakup stint in there, about 3 years in. But altogether, now we've been together for 16 years, a little over 16 years. Um, so you know,
Nice. You guys have 2 sons. What's right? I have my
mhm.
information right now. So, how old are they, and what's your house like these days with those 2?
So Wesson, firstborn son, 4.5, and JD will be 1 year old next month, April 4th. So
Active.
things are busy.
Yeah.
Things are busy. I was actually telling my wife had to go out of town this weekend, and she took our youngest son with her, and was actually telling somebody today that I didn't realize it at the time when they left, but coincidentally, it ended up being a really good thing for me and Wesson because ever since JD came along, Wesson and my relationship has gotten very instructional
Mhm.
as opposed to relational.
Yep.
So it was good this weekend for he and I just to be able to spend some one-on-one time together, just hang out and do guy stuff.
So what were the meals like with you and Wesson this weekend?
So uh, we went out to eat dinner with his two of his other favorite people, his grandma and grandpa on Friday night
There you
at
go.
the Mexican restaurant. That's a hands down winner every time. But believe it or not, for all of you watching out there, I cooked a couple of meals over the weekend too. So we did some fast food and we did some cooked meals at the house.
Nice.
And he ate on his mother's schedule, just like he always does. So everything ran according to plan.
Yep. Uh, it's the dynamics are interesting. You have 2 adults and 2 kids. You would feel like it's man-to-man defense, and it's really not. And when you remove the 2nd kid from the equation, the noise level goes down. It's different. You could probably hear things, but it's funny. You would think it'd be simple math, but it's nowhere near simple math when you add 1 or subtract.
It's not. It's definitely not. And the fact that like the it was the younger of the two that was gone this weekend, like at 1 year old, they have so many more like miscellaneous needs throughout the day and like preparation for things to leave the house. And whereas, Weston, he can put his own clothes on,
Yep.
put his shoes on, get ready, I'll brush your teeth and hop in the truck. A 1 year old is just don't just stop screaming and hollering for a minute while I
Yeah,
get your stuff
that
together.
would be nice. So, granted, JD's only gonna be a year old shortly. Can you kinda tell who's more like mom and who's more like dad yet?
Mm, no, not
Okay.
yet.
Alright,
Not definitely not with JD. Weston's a good combination of both.
good.
Yeah,
Your looks, her brains? Is that the best?
I, I don't know. He he might have got all her good qualities and got all my bad
There you go.
qualities. I don't
There
know.
you go. Alright. That's a good husband answer too. So you're 2 for 2 today
There
then.
you have it.
You grew up on a farm in Lewisburg.
Yeah.
So that intrigues me for 2 reasons. One is I did not grow up in a small town. We moved around a lot, so I lived in a bunch of towns, but none of them small, and never on a farm and have no farm skills. So what was that like, and how many family members lived around you? All kind of assumptions that we make about small town farming life.
Yeah. So, interestingly, we grew up on a farm, but we didn't actually tend, to that farm. We had the land and we had a tenant farmer who took care of it for up until just about 3 years ago, actually, which is another part of the story. But um, grew up on farmland, grew up, tractors, four wheelers, hunting, um, just that kind of nature esque type, right? Go outside, get dirty,
Mm.
you know, come back in when dinner's ready type, right? Um, but fast forward to, like I said, just 3 years ago, the tenant farmer who took care of the place actually passed away. And it had been something that was in the back of my mind for a while where I wanted, us to start doing some things out there as a family. So we actually turned what was already like the cropland, cleared cropland into pasture land, and we grow hay out there. So we got a little small hay business that we've started up, and we got some customers that buy from us and things like that. So that's been a lot of fun to, especially Weston being a little older, like taking him out there, teaching him about those things, and um, seeing that little business get off the ground has been pretty cool.
I like that. Did you have other family members that lived near you?
Yeah, so all of my family, so my parents split up when I was two, both remarried by the time I was three, have great relationships with step parents and extended family, and all that is really a wonderful blessing from a family standpoint, given the circumstances for my situation. But yeah, so we all, both parents and step parents family, are all, relatively close by, an hour away at the most. But right there at the farm, just me, my mom, my stepdad, my sister, and then my great grandmother, who actually owned the farm while she was alive. She lived in the house next door. But cousins and things of that nature, all right there in the community, within, a 5 minutes drive or less. But Lauren, her family's originally from Florida. They moved up when she was 12. So all of her extended family is still down in the Cocoa Beach, Cape Canaveral area of Florida. But all of her immediate family, mom, dad, brothers, sisters, and their kids are all, close by.
So that brings me to 2 questions. One is your great-grandmother own the property? Did her parents own it before her?
No,
Okay.
no, she and her husband bought it, owned it initially, and she had it until she actually lived to be 106.
Wow.
Yeah, so she owned it. I think they bought that place in like the 40s or 50s.
Wow, very impressive.
Yeah,
And the other
yeah.
thing I always like to ask people who grew up in a small town is how long did it take information to get back to your parents after you've done something you probably shouldn't have done?
Not long. And I was never a great liar. So like, and I knew my mom, so there were a lot of times where like I had gotten in trouble and I didn't even wait. I
Yeah.
just, look, mom, you're probably ought to be expecting a phone call from such and such because here's what happened.
Yeah. But, yeah, go I'm sure you got a good
It,
story about somebody did you have a friend or a cousin try to bluff their parents?
oh yeah, yeah, plenty of friends, plenty of cousins, all trying to look, like, look, man, you can call your mom if you want to. I'm not calling my mom, dude. You're crazy. I'm like, look, I that's just the way I'm wired. It is what it is. We got in trouble. This is probably gonna be a lot easier on me in the long run if I just go ahead and confess. So,
Oh,
but
yeah.
yeah, we had plenty of.
Yep. I'm with you, and also growing up the way you did was the way I did as well. I didn't live on a farm, but it was like, "Hey, leave the house. Just go
Yeah,
outside and play, do whatever you want to, just go out and play and, come back later." And I always felt like a lot of folks that in my generation, we lived pretty good because we ate a lot of dirt and drank water out of the hose right off
for
side of the
sure.
house, and we didn't even think twice
Yeah,
about it. I'm sure you did the same thing.
for sure. Yeah, drink water out of the hose,
Yep,
play in the mud, play in the dirt,
yep.
eat dirt. ride four wheelers without helmets and all that kind of stuff. I mean,
Yep.
it was what it was, and I don't know. I draw comparisons to the way that our parents gave us freedom versus the way I see even me and Lauren raising our kids, where I don't know, maybe more new age parents tend to hover a lot more.
Yep.
And times where I feel myself in that, and I feel like I've got to pull away and just be like, look, man, you're going to be fine going out there and have some fun. I'm not going to be watching you for a little bit.
Yeah. What is the biggest piece of equipment you have driven?
Um, just like average size tractor. We got a tractor at the farm. We got a small skid steer for moving around dirt and hay bales and things like that. Um, I'd love to learn how to operate an excavator or a bulldozer, but haven't had the opportunity to do that yet. So right now, just your average size tractor and skid steer.
And my grandson would love to learn how to work a excavator as well. That is his favorite thing that has wheels. So,
It is
uh,
fun, man.
oh yeah,
It's you get out
yeah,
there on the farm and you've got some little work to do. It's fun operating equipment.
yeah. What skill sets? What's the greatest farming skill set you have? Can you milk a cow? Can you bale 40 acres of hay in a day? All those
I,
good things.
Mike, I would have to say it's not a physical attribute, but a mental attribute. And I would say that, like, having been in the insurance industry for so long, leading into us taking that over, is the tolerance for things going wrong and let down.
Yeah, yeah,
Being in the sales cycle, you have things go your way, you have things that don't go your way. You get out there and the weather's supposed to be beautiful, and you cut your hay, and then an unexpected thunderstorm comes up this afternoon and rains on it,
yeah.
right? Just just prepared, and don't get frustrated and flustered and whatever. It just worked out the way that it did. It's going to be okay.
Yeah, I've known, my wife since 1985, and at the time, her dad was retired Air Force colonel. They live in San Antonio, and his family owned farmland in South Texas, right near Corpus, and from the moment I met her parents and was had been stayed in their house, the TV was always on the Weather Channel. Because as a farmer, you know this, you kinda gotta know what's coming up, and it could be 88 degrees for the next and sunny for the next 8 days. The Weather Channel told him that, but the Weather Channel was still on 24/7.
Still owned, yep.
Yep,
Because I mean, you can look at it, pull it up on your phone right now and look at it and go check it again after lunch,
yep.
and it's different.
Do you peek in on the Weather Channel as well?
I'm mostly just using my phone
Or
to
weather
keep
okay,
track of.
right,
But constantly looking at it, whether I've got farming to do or not.
yeah. Uh, with the hay business you have, what is the one weather element that just is toughest on hay in that business?
Well, with having to cut some of it in the summertime and these unexpected, like, showers that'll pop up, July, August, whatever, that always makes it difficult. Because obviously we're shooting for, like, hot and dry.
Mm,
We want it to be as hot and dry as it can be, when we cut it, so that it dries out quicker and we can get it baled up and get it under the shelter.
okay.
Because you run into all sorts of issues when you start baling it up with too much moisture in it. It can decay from the inside, and now you've got people that you've sold it to that are like, hey, because some people may be buying it, but they're not planning to use it until the winter. They're just
Oh,
stocking up. Well, by
okay.
the time the winter comes around and they go to feed it to their horses or cows, the half of the inside's already decayed because it was too much moisture in it. The other thing too is probably more common is you get too much moisture in there and you put it under a shelter. You're asking for that shelter to burn down.
Oh, okay.
Because that stuff can just spontaneously combust.
Wow.
Yeah.
If it rained at 1 o'clock, a 45-minute shower, how long would it take you guys how long would it take for the hay to dry?
It depends on how much it rained on it, but you just have to. We actually had that happen to us last year, and we had to ted it, which is, if anybody knows anything about hay, like there's a machine that goes behind the tractor that spins and it kicks it out, like it fluffs it up in the air. So it picks it up and fluffs it, and we had to ted it for like, I don't know, like 3 days before
Wow.
we could ever get it dry. So you're just, it'll get dry eventually, but you're just working 3 times as hard
Yep.
to get it there as opposed to if it never rained on it.
Yeah. Is that your retirement plan?
No, no, no. Small farms do not make money.
So that's always gonna be your side hustle, right?
Yeah,
Right.
that right there is a calling and a skill that was placed in me that wasn't necessarily there to make money, but to
Yep, keep it in the family,
just
right?
do it because it's an interest.
Yeah. You don't still live in that house, do you?
No,
Okay.
no,
Alright.
no. Actually we so after college I moved back in there for a year and a half. I bought a house that had to be remodeled. So I spent that year remodeling it. And then my wife and I moved into it when we got married. And we've since sold that house and built a new house. But no, I don't. I go to it often because that's where grandma is, and that's
Yep.
that's where those grandbabies like to end up every
There you
now and
go.
then.
Yep.
But no, I don't live there.
Yep. Alright, one last educational moment for people. They've got an auto or a home policy. What's something they should do in the next couple weeks with that policy? Just peek at it? What should they be looking for? What should they do?
Yeah, I would say just, I mean, you can always start out by looking at it. Uh, the issue with looking at it is that the common consumer doesn't know what they're looking at, right? So I would say, kind of like what we started out with earlier, any questions that you've had about, I wonder if this happened, how that would play out, or I wonder if that happened, like, do insurance companies even cover that? Or if they do, how much will they cover? Or how does it respond? Or is it gonna cause me, you know, a significant increase in premium if I were to file a claim like that? Those are the kind of questions that most of our clients are asking. So if you've ever been asking yourself that question, I would start there. And then from that point, say, okay, whether I'm talking to my current agent or I'm talking to somebody different, I feel confident in what this person is saying. I want to, maybe let's hash back through this and see if there are any areas, of improvement, to, maybe we can uh, increase coverage and also save on cost. What we see, oftentimes is with our companies when we offer a home and auto and an umbrella option, an umbrella liability policy to go over home and auto, those underlying limits, because these companies offer multi policy discounts for all the policies that you have with them. Yes, you may be increasing some of the underlying cost to get to the place that you need to be to have that umbrella. But once the umbrella is factored into the equation, the discounts will offset some of the additional costs to where people aren't spending near what they thought they would have to get more coverage. So that's just something that we kind of, like to flow through with people to show them, whether it's a current client that we're doing a review on, or a potential new client, like, hey, here's kind of a comparison to what you've got now. Here's another, alternative to better your current plan. And in some cases, if they're moving to us from another carrier, we're better in their plan and saving them money. If they're already a client of ours, with those discounts, it's like, okay, well, we're not saving money, but the increased cost to do this is not as much as it would be because we're factoring in these additional discounts.
I
So
understand.
just, taking the time to probably start with the questions that you've had, and then roll that into um, a review so that your questions can get addressed as a part of that review.
Cool. No, I appreciate that. And folks, we've been putting Scotty's phone number up on the screen during the show. If you have questions, he'll answer them for you, help you in any way he can. So give them a call. Make sure everything you have insured, and everything that's on your policy, you still have. So there's little things like
If
that. So,
anybody's ever told you they were going to call on your behalf, double check that.
Scotty, that may be the best thing I learned today was I didn't even think that would yeah, but, now that you say it, I can see where you're trying to sell 4 cars in a day and finance 9, and you forget to call, and all of a sudden, you're 2 months down the road. So but again, it's those tidbits, folks, that you need to call a veteran insurance agent, to make sure you're always covered. So, Scotty, we've enjoyed it very much. I hope the insurance world does not change too much on you, in the next, 8 or 9 months, but enjoyed learning about, a hay business on the farm and what rain does to it and stuff like that. So enjoyed having you on the show and wish you luck for you and your chapter as well.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it.
And we will see everybody next time on Triangle BNI.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.